Hi and welcome back to Pick Up the Pieces. I'm Stacy and we are in the Pickup Kitchen. I am testing some recipes for the upcoming holiday season. We love our sweet treats, as you may know, and so we have some Nutella in a big, huge tub that I wanted to use up, and also a cookie recipe that I wanted to test out to determine if we're going to put it in the regular holiday cookie rotation. So the first thing is a Nutella cookie pie. I saw a recipe for like Nutella cookies, but they just seemed really fussy and I didn't really want to try to stuff a cookie. And then the recipe also only made like 2 dozen cookies. And so who wants to go to like all sorts of time and effort to make something and then you only get 2 dozen cookies out of it? So this is a recipe that I found, and I will link the recipe in the description for you, for a Nutella stuffed chocolate chip cookie pie, and that sounded great. So we are going to get that going. Now I have already browned some butter. It was 2 sticks plus a little bit. This recipe's in grams and Celsius, so 240 grams of brown butter was a little bit more than 2 sticks of butter, and I already put this in a saucepan and simmered it until it started to smell nutty, and so now we have some brown butter cooling. And I'm going to get the rest of the ingredients going, and then we'll be folding that brown butter in. So we have 2 eggs. And we are going to mix our 2 eggs with some granulated sugar and some brown sugar. And it just says to whisk for about 2 to 3 minutes until light and fluffy to incorporate air. So we are going to get that going. Now I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees. And I'm going to make this in a Springform pan, which I've already sprayed with some cooking spray. You can use a pie plate for this, but I feel like I will have an easier time of getting this out of the pan if I use the Springform, so that is what I am going with. And so we are just going to whisk this and incorporate a bunch of air. Now I could have used my mixer for this, but I'm going to be using my mixer in a little while to make some cookies, and so I figured a little elbow grease would be fine, and then I don't have to wash the mixer twice today. Now my brown sugar is a little bit lumpy, but that is okay. Some little flecks of molasses are showing up here in my cookie batter, but that's just fine. I think it's going to melt into the cookies just fine. And I am getting low on brown sugar, so one of these days I will show you how I make it. It is very easy. I never buy brown sugar at the grocery store. I always make it myself, and I will show you how to do that soon. So I'm just going to keep whisking this until it is aerated. So I think that is nicely combined. It's nice and fluffy. And so now we'll add in some vanilla extract, and it calls for a tablespoon of vanilla extract. This is my kind of recipe. We know I measure vanilla with my heart, but a tablespoon of it, well, that sounds fantastic to me. I am getting low on vanilla here, but I do have more that I made up, and I did show you guys how to do that in a video, and I will refill my vanilla soon once I've finished using up the last little bits there. So now we'll put in that brown butter, and once that is in, we will add our flour and our chocolate chips. And I just put a towel under my glass bowl here for 2 reasons. 1, I don't want my bowl slipping around on the counter, and 2, I didn't want it making noise. I'm noticing sometimes when I'm filming using a glass bowl, the bowl will clang a little bit on the counter, and I figure if it was bothering me, it might be bothering somebody else. So I put a towel under there. So now we're going to add in our brown butter. I'm going to add this slowly so that I don't accidentally cook my eggs. And this is a lot of butter. And there's all my brown butter bits. That's going to be delicious. It is a lot of butter. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. And the smell of brown butter is amazing. It's very nutty. And now it says to fold in the flour and then the chocolate chips. So we've got our flour, all-purpose flour, nothing fancy. And this smells amazing. My daughter absolutely loves Nutella, so I have a feeling this is going to be a hit. One of our sons loves it too. So if this ends up being tasty, this might go into the regular rotation because there's nothing wrong with cookies and Nutella, if you ask me. So, all right, we've got our butter and eggs and sugars and vanilla mixed in, and now I'm going to just fold in our chocolate chips, and then this is going to go in the pan. So half of this will go in the pan. We'll add a layer of Nutella, and then we'll top with the other half of the cookie. So I guess you're kind of like encasing the Nutella in cookie. It's like a Nutella cookie sandwich. So that looks good, nice and combined. So it says press half into the bottom and up the sides, and then do the Nutella, and then put the rest. So we will do that. So around half of this will now go in here. I think that looks about right. And my Springform pan is sprayed with some cooking spray. I think I'm going to have to add just a little bit more of my cookie dough. So this is a fairly large Springform pan, and that is fine. I just want to make sure that we have enough on the bottom here so that we get like a good bottom crust. That looks pretty good. Now the recipe says to have this go up the sides a little bit, but because of how big this is, I don't think I'm going to have to do that. I think this is a fairly large Springform pan. So because of that, I think what I'll do when I put my Nutella in is just make sure the Nutella's in the center, and then the rest of the dough I'll sort of dome over it, and I think that'll work out just fine. I'm just feeling with my hands here. My hands are nice and clean. I just want to make sure that my dough is even, and it's hard to do that sometimes with the spatula. So, all right, so now we're supposed to take about 100 grams of Nutella and then spread that over the dough. So I'm going to kind of drizzle this. I don't want to just plop it in one spot and then have to fight it. So I'm just kind of drizzling this. This is room temperature, which I think is helping a lot. So I'll get this mostly in the center of the pan, and then I can spread it out almost to the edges, and then, like I said, top it with the rest of the cookie dough. So in a way, this is basically a big Nutella cookie, but I didn't have to do all the work of stuffing individual cookies with Nutella. The recipe that I found for the stuffed Nutella cookies looked really good, but like I said, it was a very low yield recipe, and it involved making like dollops of the Nutella, which then you freeze, and then you make the dough, and then you sort of had to like make a pocket in the dough and stuff it, and it just seemed like it was going to be messy and a whole lot of work. And like I said, for only 24 cookies, I wasn't really sure I wanted to do all that. So, all right, so my Nutella is now in the pan. I am going to use my clean finger here to get that in there, and then we're going to put the rest of our cookie dough on. Now, I think to make it easier to spread, I'm going to kind of dollop it around, because again, I don't want to mess up this like fabulous Nutella layer that we've got going. So I feel like I can seal it in if I just kind of dollop the dough all the way around and kind of spread it. So I have a feeling this is going to be very gooey and rich and delicious. So it's very exciting recipe today. And of course, when it comes out of the oven and we can get it out of the pan, I will obviously show you what it looks like, taste it, let you know what we think. But I'm basically just sealing in that Nutella with a fabulous layer of cookie dough. So that worked out pretty good. Should get the last little bit of dough. Scrape your bowls very, very well, and not only will your recipes be delicious, but you have less dishes to deal with. So, all right. So I think we did a good job sealing that all in. I don't see any Nutella poking through. Now I'm going to get this in my 350-degree oven. The recipe here says we bake it for 35 to 40 minutes until the edges are brown and the center is set but still a little soft, and then I will let you know what it looks like. Also, this is going to cool in the pan for at least 20 minutes before we slice it. So I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Our cookie pie just came out of the oven and it looks fantastic. It is cooling back there, and when it is not blazing hot, I will cut into it and show you what it looks like, but it smells fantastic. I was a little bit concerned about the recipe because there were no leavening agents in it. I mean, other than flour, there was no baking soda, baking powder, but the edges look really crispy and the center looks a little bit doughy, and so I think they're going to be great. Now, we are going to make cranberry-orange cookies. This might be a new addition to the Christmas rotation, but not sure, so we wanted to test the recipe and see if we'd like it. As I was preparing the ingredients for this recipe and the previous, I used up all of my brown sugar. As I've said in previous videos, I make up my own brown sugar, and I'm going to show you how to do that because now I have none. So I took about 6 cups of sugar here. You do not have to measure it. Even if you wanted to just make 2 cups, that's fine. But I've got about 6 cups worth of sugar, and all I'm going to do is add it to my mixer with the whisk attachment, and I'm going to pour in some molasses. The molasses, when whipped with the sugar, will turn into brown sugar, and the more molasses you add, the darker your sugar. So you can make brown sugar that's light or medium or dark, whatever you want. I don't really measure the molasses. I would say I start with about 1/4 cup, and then if it doesn't look dark enough, I add more. And my brown sugar probably comes out varying shades of brownness every time I make it, but that is completely fine. I'm just going to pour some in, and then I'm going to mix this around. Now, it will seem like this is never going to mix. It will seem like you've made a mistake. You will sometimes get streaks of the molasses in the sugar. Sometimes half the molasses will stick to the side of the bowl. But if you just let this whip and whip and whip and scrape the sides down a couple of times, you will end up with the most perfect brown sugar, and you will never buy store-bought again. So we're just going to get this going, and I will show you what it looks like throughout the process. So this has only been mixing about 30 seconds, but I want to show you that when I take some of this out of the mixer, it doesn't look right. See, it's sugar, it's lumps of molasses. The sugar is lumping up, the molasses is lumping up. You just have to wait and be patient. It is completely fine. Like I said, it will look very wrong before it looks very right. So after about 30 seconds, it's definitely looking very wrong, but we're going to keep going. So it's been about 2.5 minutes, and our brown sugar looks better, but still not right. There is still some molasses stuck to the side of the bowl, and the little chunks of sugar and molasses are still noticeable, but they are much smaller. So it's a much finer texture. You can see the sugar is sort of lumping up like brown sugar would. It is a little light. I would like it to be a little bit darker, so I added probably about a 1/4 cup of molasses at first, and I'm going to dump in probably about another 1/4 of a cup. And like I said, this was about 6 cups of sugar, so we'll put a little bit more in and then give this more mixing time. And like I said, you have to just let it whip. I'm using a Kitchenaid mixer, and this is on about a setting of 4, a speed of 4. If you go too fast, you're going to spray sugar everywhere, so 4 is about where you want to end up. My brown sugar mixture has been going for about 5 minutes or so, 5.5, and now it is definitely looking more like brown sugar. Definitely sort of like the clumpy texture that you're used to, and it is turning like a nice molasses brown color. I've gone through with my spatula and I've scraped my sides really, really well. Sometimes you'll get little pockets of sugar that has not mixed enough with the molasses, and you want to make sure, of course, that it mixes very thoroughly. I am not going to add any more molasses at this time. I think we're good as far as like a light to medium brown sugar, but I'm just going to whip it a little bit more or whisk it a little bit more, maybe another 1.5 to 2 minutes, and then I will show you what the final brown sugar looks like. So my brown sugar is ready. It has been whipping in this Kitchenaid mixer for about 7 or 8 minutes. And let me just get this out of the way. So as you can see, it has all combined together. No more little lumps of molasses, no more little clumps of sugar. And the texture is lovely. It is the texture that you're used to feeling with brown sugar. And it smells lovely. The molasses that I have, the only ingredient in it is unsulfured molasses. And then this is just brown or regular sugar that I bought from Restaurant Depot. Now, because you're making this yourself, you can control the ingredients you're putting in. If you buy like a really good quality organic sugar, I know that there's some places that you can go or places you can order from where you can get like really good organic flours and sugars and stuff like that. By all means, go ahead and make your very best quality brown sugar if you'd like to. But I have not purchased brown sugar at a store in a very, very long time. This is all I do when I need brown sugar. I make a big batch of it and I keep it in this container. And I never need to put like that little, I've seen people use like a piece of clay and you moisten it and you put it in and it keeps your brown sugar soft. Or I've heard people say put a piece of bread in there. I've never needed to do any of that. This brown sugar will not get hard. It will not lump up on you. It will stay absolutely fresh. And trust me, you will go through it, quickly if you're baking. And so all I do is just put this carefully into my container, seal it up tightly, put it in my pantry, and now holiday cookie season can start when we are ready, and I will have brown sugar ready to go. I will probably have to make another batch of brown sugar, if I'm being honest, before holiday baking is done. But this will give me a good start. And so my mixer is nice and clean, and I can now use this to make my cranberry-orange cookies. And here's my brown sugar ready to go in the pantry. So I got my brown sugar put away, and now I'm going to make up these cranberry-orange cookies. So we need 2 sticks of butter. And so this is room temperature butter. And this is going in the mixer. And to that, I am adding my sugar, which is 1 cup of sugar. Now, I will link the recipe for this in the description for you, so you will have it. You also need a 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar. And so that's going in there as well. And now we are going to whip this together until well combined and light in texture. So that took a little bit of time here, but my butter and granulated sugar and brown sugar are now whipped up. They're smooth and light in texture here. I'm just going to scrape down my paddle and my bowl and just make sure that I don't have any little pockets of butter that has not met up with the sugar. And to this, we're going to add our egg and some orange juice. So to this, it says add 1 egg. So 1 egg going in. We are adding a teaspoon of orange zest. So I zested 1 orange, and 1 tablespoon, or 1 teaspoon of it rather, is going in the dough, and then the rest is going to go in the glaze that's going on top. So 1 teaspoon, and then we also need 2 tablespoons of orange juice. So 1 and 2, and the rest of that is also going to go in the glaze. So we're going to get these mixed. So that smells phenomenal. The zest and the juice of the orange in there just, oh my gosh, it smells so good. And then the fact that there's going to be more juice and zest in the glaze, I think these are going to be absolutely delicious. And we're putting dried cranberries in these as well. So looking forward to trying this recipe. Now, I just scraped that all down. Want to give it one more little mix. Okay, now we are adding flour, salt, and baking soda. And then we are adding the cranberries and then baking them. Now, I think this would actually be good if you added some maybe nuts, or even like maybe pistachios would be good in this. Maybe some walnuts would be good in here, but I'm going to stick with the recipe as written because I've never made it before. And when I haven't made something before, especially a baking recipe, I don't mess with it. I don't experiment until after I've made it once and I know how it comes out the first time, like the original way. So I just added in baking soda, salt, and my flour, and now I'm just going to carefully mix this. So I don't want to overmix this cookie dough. So I've still got a little bit of flour in here, but that is okay because I'm going to fold in the cranberries. And so I'm going to do the rest of this by hand. I'm just getting my mixer out of the way. We'll get all the dough off this paddle, and then we will mix this the rest of the way through and fold in those cranberries. But I do think possibly folding in either some walnuts or pistachios might be really nice with this. But it is also on a cookie platter nice to have something that doesn't have nuts in it. I feel like sometimes, everything's got like walnuts or pecans or something in it, and it just gets to kind of all taste the same. So it's nice to have a recipe that's a little bit different. And we love the combination of orange and cranberry here. Our cranberry sauce that we make for Thanksgiving has a little orange in it. So when I saw the recipe for this, I figured it was probably going to be a winner. So I'm just giving this a mix. The dough is coming together nicely. I just want to scrape those little last dry bits of flour off the side. And I'm going to get a knife. I think a knife will help me to scrape the dough off of here. Okay, and then I'm going to fold in my cranberries. So this is 2 cups of dried cranberries. If they're big, the recipe says to chop them up a little bit. I did not chop these. I left them whole because they were not enormous. So I didn't feel like they needed to be chopped. And that is a lot of fruit, but it looks phenomenal. And I'm just trying to mix in these cranberries so that every scoop of dough will have cranberries in it. I feel like sometimes when I make cookies, like those last 1 or 2 cookies never seems to have the same amount of chips or whatever in it as the rest of them, because sometimes when you get to the bottom of your bowl, you're stuck with just a glob of dough and like all the mix-ins, you know, have already been scooped up. So our cranberry orange cookie dough is ready to go, and I've just made sure to combine everything thoroughly. My cranberries are evenly distributed. That way every cookie is pretty uniform. And now I have 2 cookie sheets. These are lined with a Silpat, which is like a silicone baking mat. I have a bunch of these. I also like to use pre-cut parchment paper when I bake cookies so that I don't have to wash my trays in between each batch. So I am just going to scoop these. Now the recipe does say to make sure that the cookies have some space between them. So tablespoons full of dough to allow for spreading. And so we are going to make these relatively big. And so I am going to push them down a tiny bit just so that they bake evenly. And I'm not sure how far they're going to spread, so I'll give them plenty of space. Recipe says these take about 8 to 10 minutes, and we will see, and I will let you know how much time it does take for them to bake. We're going to get these going and in the oven. Our cookies are baking, and the recipe made exactly 24 cookies. So I know I said that I wasn't going to make those Nutella cookies because it only made 2 dozen, and now here I just made the cranberry cookies and that's all it made. So it may not be a great recipe for like a holiday cookie tray kind of thing, because really you only make 2 dozen, but it might be great as dessert for a holiday meal. So those are baking, and while they're baking, I'm going to make the glaze. This is 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. To my powdered sugar, I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of the orange zest that I have left. So pretty much the rest of it. There might be a little extra, but I don't think that's going to hurt anything. And then we're adding 3 tablespoons of orange juice. So 1, 2, 3. That, I can't believe I ended up, 1 orange ended up giving me almost exactly the right amount of zest and the right amount of juice that I needed. So that was lucky. And then this is just getting mixed. And I feel like anytime I ever make an icing, it always looks like I have too much sugar and not enough liquid. And then once you just kind of give it a mix for long enough, you'll find it comes together perfectly. So this smells fantastic. I think it's going to be really delicious on top of the cookies. I was worried that much powdered sugar, like 1.5 cups, was going to make a seriously huge amount of glaze, and we only have 2 dozen cookies, but I think we're okay. This is great. I'm going to give this a taste. Oh, that is phenomenal. And that is my oven beeping. I'm going to check my first batch cookies and see how they're doing. Our first tray of cookies came out of the oven. Now, I scooped these far bigger than the recipe said. The recipe said 1 tablespoon for 8 to 10 minutes. These are definitely more like 2 tablespoons. I made big cookies, so I feel like if I would have made them smaller, probably would have made 4 dozen cookies, but I made them pretty big, and I have no regrets. And so I am going to take these now off the tray. They did end up taking about 12 minutes to bake. And when these are fully cooled, which I assume will take maybe 10 more minutes just on the wire rack, then I will glaze them and give them a try. Now, in the meantime, our cookie pie is out of the Springform pan. It smells absolutely wonderful. And so let me get this out of the way. And let me get these on the rack. And I am going to, oh, those need another minute or 2 on the tray. So why don't we cut into our cookie pie here? This just, I mean, oh, the texture of it, it feels like the edges are going to be like really kind of crunchy, but the center is going to be gooey. I'm just going to cut a small piece here because I have a feeling this is going to be very rich, but I think this was a success. And we have a gooey Nutella center here, and I am going to treat myself to a bite of this before dinner. And I'll taste these cookies in a little bit, but let's see what we've got here. This is absolutely phenomenal. It kind of almost reminds me of those cookies you can get at the mall, and they're still warm, and sometimes they have frosting on them, or sometimes they're just full of like fudge, or they have that like fudge topping on them. This is absolutely divine. The edge is kind of crispy, the center is a little bit gooey, the Nutella adds some nice richness and creaminess. The melty chocolate chips, like, this is definitely a winner. This is definitely something we're gonna have to make time and time again. And I think at least 2 of our kids are gonna absolutely adore this. So I will be back when these cranberry cookies are cooled and iced, and we'll give them a try. And so we'll see you soon. So we do still have one more tray of cookies cooling, but I am not really the most patient of people. And so I will wait to glaze the rest of these until they are completely cool. But this nice warm cranberry orange cookie has some fresh glaze on it, and well, I just kind of wanted to try it while it was still warm. All right, well, I think we are 2 for 2 today. The orange flavor in both the cookie and the icing completely comes through. The edge of the cookie is crispy. The center is a little bit chewy, mostly because of the cranberries. It's not too sweet. And this is, I mean, it's just absolutely delicious. I'm not a big decorate your cookies kind of person. A lot of times when the recipe says to sprinkle with powdered sugar or put a glaze on it, like, I tend to skip that step. Do not skip that glaze. It is absolutely phenomenal. These cookies are delicious. Regardless of the fact they only got 24 of them, I would absolutely make this again. So I want to thank you for joining me in the Pickup Kitchen for some baked goods and some brown sugar. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful that you are here, and I appreciate you very much. If you haven't already, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps us out so much, and we will see you next time. Good night.